very much. What a group. Thank you very much, Wyoming, and I'm thrilled to be back in this majestic state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots, and you are hardworking, aren't you? In 2020, we won Wyoming by the largest margin of any state in the nation, red or blue, red or blue. This is MAGA country. This is MAGA country. In fact, they gave us a new name. They made a little mistake with this one. This is Ultra MAGA country. We like Ultra MAGA even better. Over the next 6 months, the people of Wyoming are going to vote to dump your rhino Congresswoman Liz Cheney. And you're going to send the incredible Harriet Hageman to Congress, and together we are going to end crazy Nancy Pelosi's political career once and for all. Crazy Nancy, she is crazy. And please remember that Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and Biden and all of these Democrats are totally against Wyoming and your great source of wealth, the liquid gold right under your feet. It's called energy. And they will turn you very rapidly into a very poor state if you don't do something. So you have to do something. I let it go. We really were swinging in Wyoming. We were swinging like never before. They want to close you down. So remember that when you walk into that booth. Right, Harriet? They're going to remember. And Harriet's the exact opposite. As everyone here understands, Joe Biden and the radical Democrats are destroying our nation before our very eyes. They are destroying our nation. But perhaps even worse than the betrayals of the socialist left and communists, right? Look, the press hates to say that. How could you say that? Look, you got a lot of press back there. Got a lot of press. Why are there so many? Why, oh, why are there so many? Every one of them is there. Fake news, every one of them. But in many ways, worse than the terrible Democrats are the backstabbing rhino Republicans who are helping them do their act. And there is no rhino in America who has thrown in her lot with the radical left more than Liz Cheney. Terrible. She has gone crazy. Now I get it. I've been hearing all these stories for years. Now I get it. She's gone totally crazy. In fact, the Democrats use her statements and quotes all the time in their campaign literature and in their speeches. They say Republican Liz Cheney, and then they go with the worst statements ever, and it gives them little credibility, but people aren't buying the act based on the polls. She's way down. She's at a level that nobody's seen yet. So we'll see what happens. Get out and vote. Don't let those Democrats vote for you. Don't let them vote. You know, you got a crazy system here. You know what that means, right? Don't let the Democrats do what they did in another state last week. Don't let them do it because the Democrats get in. By the way, Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, we just had a great primary victory today. A nicely endorsed candidate. You know that, right? Burt Jones and Herschel Walker. Great. In Texas, we were 33-0. We swept, this is just as last week, 33-0 in Texas. We swept Arkansas. In fact, we have a great new governor going to take place very soon in Arkansas, right? We know who that is, right? Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she's great. She's great. And we're sweeping everything. And we actually did great in Georgia. You look at those races, all the congressmen and congresspeople, we swept everything. So a couple of little problems we had with a lot of people voting. And you have to be very, very careful with that. Our voting systems are really bad. And when you allow Democrats to vote in a Republican primary, you know, the governor was very nice. He met me at the plane. But I said, Governor, you shouldn't allow Democrats to vote in a Republican primary. He was very, very nice. He was very, very nice. He gave me a beautiful hat. He gave me the whole thing. And I said, you know, I'd rather not have the hat. I'd rather have Democrats not voting in the Republican primary. I don't need hats. I don't need the hat. Wyoming thought you were electing a conservative warrior, but instead you got a lapdog for Pelosi and a human soundbite machine for CNN and MSDNC. Liz Cheney hates the voters of the Republican Party, and she has for longer than you would know. Wyoming deserves a congresswoman who stands up for you and your values, not one who spends all of her time putting you down, going after your president in the most vicious way possible, and loving endless, nonsensical, bloody, horrible wars that never end. They just never end. The Cheneys are diehard globalists and warmongers who have been plunging us into new conflicts for decades, spilling American blood and spending American treasure all over the world. The Cheneys, along with George Bush, didn't even have the courage to pardon Scooter Libby. He was their big protector. You know, he protected George Bush very badly. He could have been in big trouble, and so could Cheney. And they didn't do it. You know who did it? I did it. I gave him a pardon. Scooter Libby, right? I gave Scooter Libby a pardon. They couldn't do it. They wouldn't do it, or they couldn't do it. And I thought it was a terrible thing. But I gave Scooter Libby because Scooter Libby got screwed, okay? And I didn't do it for them. I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And frankly, George Bush should have done it long before me. The Cheneys have never met a war they didn't like. That's why Liz Cheney voted no on bringing our troops back home from Syria, where they didn't even want to have us. I mean, it's so crazy. We go to countries that don't even want us, and we just go there. It's almost like we do it by habit. We do it by habit, but we lose people. It costs very much money, but we lose people, which is much more important and much worse. And that's why Liz Cheney now is at the front of the parade trying to get us to go into wars with Russia or anyone else that wants to bite. And you see that, and you see it all over, and you see it over and over, the stupidity of these people. And you know, when I was there, we were respected. Nobody was going to war with us. Nobody. We didn't have to go to war for people to know that we were the toughest and we were the strongest. We did it in a much different way. She's the face of the Washington swamp and the same failed foreign policy of the Clintons, Bushes, the Obamas, the Bidens, and the entire sick political establishment. I think she looks good. She looks nice. But Liz Cheney is about America last. She's weak on border security. By the way, very weak on border security. And as House Conference Chair, she sent every Republican member of Congress talking points on amnesty ripped word for word from the Biden White House. Literally word for word. It's time you finally had a representative who will put America first and who's looking to make America great again. Look at all these people down here, all these press people, you know. You saw the ratings after the election, their ratings died. They want us back so badly. They want us. I actually thought they were going to endorse me, every one of them. Few members of Congress in history have personally caused more damage and destruction to our republic than the thinking, ridiculous and stupid thinking of Liz Cheney. She's aided and abetted the radical Democrat Party in one of the most unhinged, lawless, and dangerous witch hunts of all time, the Unselect Committee on January 6th. Unselect Committee. And I see these guys, and they're up just like they did Russia, 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 same group. Now they're talking, insurrection. They don't mention what they did to Portland and burning down federal courthouses and all of the things. But this is the same group, Adam Shifty Schiff. He stands up. This is a terrible thing for our nation. Same exact words. And that turned out to be a hoax, and I have to congratulate Mr. Durham. That turned out to be a total hoax. He's exposed it. I wish he did it before the election. It would have been nice, but you know what? We got 12 million more votes this time than we got last time. We did much better the second time than we did the first time. But I still wish they did it before the election. But as one of the nation's leading proponents of the insurrection hoax, Liz Cheney has pushed a grotesquely false, fabricated, and hysterical partisan narrative, and that was the narrative of the day, which has become the pretext for the most chilling assault on your civil liberties in generations. Look what they're doing to these people. Look what they're doing to these people. And yet Antifa and BLM, they can do whatever the hell they want. They can steal money and live in $6 million mansions, and nobody does a damn thing. They can kill people, and nobody does anything. And they've killed plenty. When you look at the problems and the death and destruction that they've caused, and nobody does a thing about it, and now you look at the so-called word insurrection, January 6th. What a lot of crap. What a lot of crap. And most of this country knows it. And you know who else knows it? The Democrats. It's another con job, just like Russia, Russia, Russia. This was made up by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. A total fake story. And they have another fake story coming. It's the and many others. Don't forget, I've been investigated more than Billy the Kid, Jesse James, and the great legendary mobster, Alphonse Capone. Did anyone ever hear Al Capone? If you add them all up and double them and triple them, I've taken the cake for investigations. A friend of mine said, you know, this has been going on for years. You must be the most honest man in the history of our country. It's true. It's been going on for years. It's true. But because of what Liz Cheney did, that's why she was thrown out of the House Republican leadership, which is just about a first. It's why she was censured by the Republican National Committee, which is something that virtually never happens. It's why she was censured by the Wyoming GOP. I love the Wyoming GOP. And we have Frank here. I'll introduce him, but I'm very proud of Frank. And it's why in 2 months from now, the people of Wyoming are going to tell her, Liz, you're fired. Get out of here. Get out of here. You're fired. Get the hell out of here. Liz Cheney has helped the radical Democrat Party weaponize the national security state and law enforcement against MAGA and MAGA supporters who are hardworking, incredible people. They try and... He's going, ultra MAGA, please. Remember Hillary with that little speech she made where she brought up a word, right? Remember the word? And who would have ever thought, right? Who would have ever thought that word was going to go down in infamy? She said a few words that we won't repeat because we have a whole new narrative, right? The phony narrative that Liz Cheney is pushing has been the radical left's pretext for their all-out war on free speech. The persecution of the January 6th political prisoners. You know, you still have a lot of them in jail. How many people from Antifa are still in jail? How many people from Black Lives Matter are still in jail? How many people that have killed people are still in jail? The Democrat crusade to gut election integrity is something that nobody has ever seen anything like it in this country. Wyoming, all of America is counting on you. So important. You become, we all know how great a state you are, how beautiful you are. But you've become, politically speaking, you're at the top of the list. You have a we have a lot of elections coming up for senators and for governors. I think this is the most important election that we have right here, state of Wyoming. And you're going to have it from within. You're going to get hit from within like you've never been hit because they want to win it. And I hate to say this, Harriet, but they want to win it because they want to hurt Trump. So at least you can feel good about yourself. They want to hurt Trump. That's all they care about. You know, when you win over 100 races and all they want to talk about is one race, which was relatively unimportant compared to some, that's all they want to talk about. I said, will they ever talk about the great evening? So all they want to do is that, but you're strong. And, you know, she's one of the greatest lawyers. And I got to witness her speaking just a few minutes ago. And, man, you're good, Harriet. Nobody's going to take you on. But we need you to vote that crazy rhino, and that's what she's become beyond anybody's expectation, out of office. We've got to get her out of office. And beyond one vote, you know, this is a symbol. It's much more important than one vote. This is a symbol. You got to win. You got to win. Otherwise, it's going to be a terrible thing for our country. And it's not just the one vote, because I think the Republicans are going to have a tremendous midterm, especially in the House. Especially in the House. So it's not so much as the vote raising one hand. It's really the symbol of what she represents. She really represents despicable things. With Liz Cheney's support, the Unselect Committee has turned the United States House of Representatives into an instrument of political torment and repression. You know that. You see that every night. And people come out of the witness booth and they'll say, the worst of all the people, and you have some really bad people up there as Democrats, the worst person of all was Liz Cheney. These are people like you. These are people that represent our interests. At the same time, she's helping to completely cover up and do numbers on the disturbing questions and videos. You take a look at what they're doing with, we want to see the videos. We want the real videos, not just every time they give us a certain video from a certain little. We want the real videos. We want to really know what happened. And more importantly, we want to know what the hell happened to the election itself, which is the reason they were down there. Cheney and the Unselect Committee are also totally ignoring the very real concerns about Capitol security failures. And why, as an example, Nancy Pelosi rejected 10,000 National Guard troops or soldiers, and I strongly recommend it, and the fakers back here never want to report it, although actually the Washington Post did. The Washington Post did. But, you know, we recommended, the Secretary of Defense through me, but we recommended 10,000, and some people said 10,000 plus, but you didn't need 10,000. You needed 500 or 1,000. But recommended 10,000 because I felt, this is on January 3rd, I felt that the crowd was going to be massive. Everybody was saying we're going to be there. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. Anybody that was there would say the same thing. They never want to show that crowd. They never want to talk about that crowd. They never, ever show it. They never, I believe, and I've spoken before the biggest crowds. I have never spoken, in my opinion, before a crowd that big. And nobody wants to talk about it from the fake news media. Despite having pushed every anti-Republican fake news conspiracy theory under the sun, from the Russia bounties. Remember the Russian bounties? Remember that? That turned out to be a fake. That was another hoax. Then you had the double impeachment hoax, a perfect phone call. Remember? It's a perfect call. Remember they called the president of Ukraine, and they asked him, Mr. President, what did you think? He did nothing wrong. What are you talking about? That's why I like him. That's why I like him. But he did nothing wrong, he said. They were devastated. They didn't want to put that out. With that being said, by the way, that war should have never, ever happened. It would have never happened under me. And there can be no winners. There can be no winners. That country is being blown to pieces. People are being killed at a level that nobody's ever seen. None of us have ever seen anything like it. And it's a terrible thing, and you're not going to have any winners. It's something they ought to get back to the table. That would have never happened. It should have never, ever happened. Should have never, ever, ever happened. And it would have never happened. Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd from NBC was interviewing the Secretary of State, and he said to him, let me ask you a question. How come this never happened? By the way, and I really respect Chuck for saying this, but he said, why did this never happen under the Trump administration, right? Remember, under Bush, they lost Georgia. I'm not talking about our Georgia that we love so much. I'm talking about a different Georgia, a country. Under Bush, they lost Georgia. And then under Obama, they lost Crimea, right? And under Biden, they lost everything, everything. And under Trump, they lost nothing, nothing. They lost nothing. They lost nothing under Trump. Same thing with China. Do you notice they have these big, impressive bombers flying over Taiwan? And I had a talk with President Xi of China. I had a talk with President Putin, Russia. And I said, you can't do it. It was almost the same answer. I said, we're going to hit you very hard if you do it. And both of them said, why, really? And, you know, I'm not sure they believed me, but they sort of believed me. They didn't have to believe me full. If they believed me 5%, that was enough, right? Right, Harriet? All they had to do. But I will tell you, it was zero chance. And zero chance of China. Let's see what China does. I mean, the only thing that's keeping China out is they see how poorly Russia's doing. But Russia now has a different tactic. They stay way far away, and they just keep lobbing missiles and missiles and missiles into these cities and these poor people that are being decimated. And you're going to end up with nothing. Going to end up with nothing. That whole country is being obliterated, and you'll end up with millions of lives. And you may end up with a third world war, by the way. Okay? You may end up with a third world war because of the stupidity of what we're saying and what we're doing. And we want to help the people because what's happening to them, they're being obliterated. But, you know, we could end up in a third world war because of the way we're going about it. And I never thought that would be possible. And a third world war would be like no other war, because a third world war, we have weaponry right now. I completely rebuilt the United States military, and in rebuilding it, we also rebuilt, renovated, and brand new nuclear weapons. And I hated to do it because I saw the power. I know the power better than anybody. I know the power. And we are in a position that I never thought we'd be in. We have a major country. Every day he mentions nuclear, nuclear, nuclear. And China's doing things that they would have never done with us. We're in a position now, I don't think our country has ever been in a worse position, in a weaker position, a more pathetic position. And a lot of it started from the way we withdrew from Afghanistan. A lot of it started there. Liz Cheney has not said one word about the biggest scandal in political history, which is now finally being proven in court. Crooked Hillary Clinton and the Democrats spied on my campaign, and they spied on my White House. They spied on me when I was in the Oval Office. Could you imagine if a Republican got caught spying on President Biden? Wouldn't be too exciting. Spying on Obama, spying on Clinton. Could you imagine you're spying on President Obama, right? You're spying on President Obama from the outside and you get caught. I think it would be, at a minimum, the rest of your life in the Who's Gal, and maybe stronger than that. And they don't even talk about it. We caught them spying on our campaign. We have it, absolute proof. It's coming out every day, but we caught them spying. Remember a long time ago when Twitter was good, now it's going down the tubes, by the way. Trump, right? We want Trump. Ready? Truth Social. Truth Social. Truth. Oh, their heads are spinning. That one's doing so well. Everybody get off Twitter and go Truth Social. You did good. I did too. Mine was enforced, but they want me back. For the media, they want me back so badly. And I'm not going back because we have truth. We have truth on our side. That's the way I look at it. We have truth on our side. Get off Twitter. But you remember, I put out like this tweet, I think it was like on a Saturday morning, and I saw something on television, and I said, I believe Obama spied on my campaign. Okay. Now, I didn't think it was that big a deal. You know, you put it out, hey, Obama. 3 minutes later, I get a call, like my phone goes crazy. Sir, did you just say that President Obama spied in your campaign? Yeah, what's the big deal? Sir, the wires are burning up. I said, really? After Covfefe, it was the single biggest tweet I ever did. Covfefe was bigger. But after Covfefe, which was world's #1, it was the biggest tweet I ever did. And I thought it was just going to be like routine. You know, I'm throwing it out, but that's what I thought. That's what I heard. And you know why it was such a big deal? Because we caught them, and they realized that we caught them, and it became a monster. And what they did is they tried to protect it. And in the end, it may be years later, but now it's turned out to be true. They spied on our campaign. And just remember, if a Republican did it, it would be perhaps the death penalty, right? It's a disgrace. But that's why it turned out to be so big. You know, we hit a nerve. Let's put it that way. We seriously hit a nerve. I kept saying, I can't believe this is such... I was getting calls, sir, this thing is blowing up. The machines were on fire. Hillary Clinton's former campaign manager, real beauty, Robbie Mook, recently testified that the Russia hoax, this is 2.5 years of crap. 2.5 years we all went through. And we put our country in danger, just so you know. Was conducted with the knowledge and approval of crooked Hillary Clinton herself. She's guilty as you can be. Now, the real question now is whether Durham will have the courage, and I hope he does, to expose the corruption of the Mueller witch hunt and the Hillary Clinton disaster with all of the stuff that they released. The whole thing was a hoax. And think of it, they knew it was a hoax. And they went 2.5 years. The country spent $48 million or so. They had FBI agents all over the place. They had 18 angry Democrats as prosecutors. This went on for years. And yet, think of it this way, because I have to brag. With all of that going on, I'm under investigation on a phony situation. People said, Russia. You know, during the campaign, people would come up to me, sir, this is before I won. Sir, did you ever have anything to do with Russia? No, not at all. I thought it was a very innocent question, right? Then a month later, they'd come up, Harriet. I needed you as my lawyer. They said, sir, did you have anything to do with Russia? A young kid would come up. I said, no, why are they asking this question about Russia? What the hell do I have to do with Russia? And about 4 or 5 times more, they come up, and then after about the 5th time, an innocent young man, sir, hi, sir, it's great to meet you. Sir, do you know anything about Russia? And I said, no, what the hell is going on with Russia? So they created a fake story. And I didn't take it seriously because I knew there was nothing to it. So being a believer in our country, I said, well, nothing's going to come of this story because it's fake. And 2.5 years later, I was right. After we went through hell. And despite going through hell, we did more than perhaps any, but just about more than any president in the history of our country. Thank you. And you went through it with us. I mean, you went through it. A lot of people were affected, and a lot of people believed it. A lot of people believed it. You know, they keep hearing it every day. It started off as a statement by somebody about, I remember one situation where they asked Robbie Mook, little Robbie. Hi, Robbie, how you doing? And do you think this was Russia? You know what I think it was? That terrible, terrible reporter who got thrown over to CNN, Chris Wallace, who always wanted to be Mike, but he didn't have the talent. Chris Wallace, he wanted to be Mike. You know, Mike did me on 60 Minutes, and Mike was a killer, but he gave me a great piece. And 60 Minutes, years before, Mike Wallace was a great legend, and Chris wanted to be like his father, but he never had the talent. And I think, as I remember it, Chris Wallace asked Robbie Mook a question. Does Trump have anything to do with Russia? And Robbie Mook was like, you know, John Lovett's The Liar. Remember when Saturday Night used to be good? It is so pathetic now. It's so bad. But remember, John Lovett's, yeah, I'm a businessman. That's right, I'm a businessman. Oh, that's right, I went to the Wharton School of Finance. That's right, I went to the Wharton School. Yeah, I'm a great success. Remember John Lovett's The Liar? This was Robbie Mook. He said about Russia. And Robbie Mook goes, yeah, Russia. And I'm telling you, I was watching this crazy interview, and I think that's where it started. And they made it up. It was a hoax. And now they're doing it again and again and again. And the biggest problem we have is the fake news media, because they know it's a hoax, and they play it up. The Mueller witch hunt wasn't an investigation. It was a cover-up, and it was the closest thing to a real coup attempt, in my opinion, in the history of our country. I think that the Mueller witch hunt, they had so little. They had just nothing. They fought like hell. They wanted, if they could find a comma at a place, if they could find a misspelled words, they checked every record. They went through my files for a long, how would you like that? You win the presidency, and from almost the very beginning, they're doing this kind of stuff. These are bad people. That's why our greatest danger is not from outside of our country. Our greatest danger is these sick people from within. That's the way it is. And if Liz Cheney truly cared about saving American democracy instead of persecuting Republicans, she would be demanding that everyone involved in the Russia hoax be exposed and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And it was very dangerous because, you know, here we are fighting with a nuclear power, and I'd go to him and would have a meeting, and he'd say, boy, they are killing. But he really was more angry about something else. I ended his pipeline. I terminated it. Biden gave it back to him. I sanctioned them like nobody's ever been sanctioned. And maybe most of all, I got other European countries who were ripping us off because we were spending almost 100% for NATO to protect Europe, and then they screw us on trade, by the way, like almost nobody other than China. But think of this. I got them to pay $430 billion into NATO. That's why NATO has all this money, because of me. Obama couldn't do it, and Bush couldn't do it. And Biden certainly can't do it, but I got him to pay. And I had a meeting. I said, you people are all delinquent. What's going on? I had one nice meeting, and I realized, I looked at the numbers, and Obama would go make a speech and then leave, and Bush would make a speech and leave, and they'd never say, you owe us a lot of money. But I said it. I said, you're delinquent. You owe billions and billions of dollars. And the head of one of the countries, president of a major country, in a closed session said, well, let me ask you this question, sir. We are largely delinquent. Only 8 countries out of 28 were paid up. We are largely delinquent. Sir, does this mean that if we aren't paid up in full, and if we happen to be attacked by Russia, does this mean that you won't protect us? I had to give him one answer, because otherwise they wouldn't have paid. So I said, yes, we will not protect you if you're not paid up. And you know what happened? The money came roaring in. And the Secretary General, good man, Stoltenberg, I don't know if he's still my fan, but he was the biggest fan I had in the whole world, because he said they'll never pay. But I gave him a simple answer: no, we're not going to protect you if that happens. No, you're on your own. And the money poured in by the billions and billions, and ultimately it was $430 billion, with a B, billion dollars. This August, we're going to vote out this atrocious rhino, and we're going to replace her with a conservative warrior from a place called Wyoming, who will never let you down. Never let you down. Harriet, you better never let them down. Harriet Hageman will be a true champion for the people of this state. Harriet is a 4th-generation daughter of Wyoming, raised on a ranch where she learned to be a fighter. Harriet will fight for Wyoming's incredible ranchers and incredible farmers. And by the way, I got the farmers of this country $28 billion from China, right? Right? You know that. $28 billion. Because China was taking advantage of our country and indirectly taking advantage of our farmers. And I asked our Secretary of Agriculture, a good man, Sonny Perdue, I said, Sonny, how much is it? About $28 billion, sir. So I put big tariffs on China, far more than that. Billions and billions and billions. And out of the hundreds of billions of dollars that I got in and took in from China in taxes and tariffs, I took out $28 billion, right, farmers, and I gave it to the farmers of the United States, and that got them even. That got them even. I think it got them even plus. And then we made a great trade deal there, and we made a great trade deal with USMCA. We got rid of NAFTA. That NAFTA was the worst trade deal in history. And I told the farmers, you have to do 2 things. Go out and buy more land, and go out and buy bigger tractors, right? Remember I told them that? And I was right. The farmers have done great, but now I think China's not living up to their deal because they don't respect this administration. They were living up to it when I was there. She'll fight to protect and preserve our beautiful national parks and lands, Harriet. She'll fight to unleash Wyoming's vast energy resources. She's tough on crime, strong on borders, strong on the First and Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is so under siege. And she's rock solid on ensuring free and fair elections. That's nice. The entire Republican Party is united behind Harriet. She's endorsed by practically everyone. And most importantly, perhaps, she's endorsed by me. She's endorsed by me. So I know Harriet just spoke, but I'm going to ask her just to come up here and shake my hand and say hello again. Harriet, please come up.
I just have one metric. In January of 2020, we had a 4% surplus in terms of oil production in this country. Now we have more than a 4% deficit. Do you miss him yet?
Thank you. Thank you. Look who we have, Mr. Congressman. I heard you were fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Congressman. It's nice to see you. You're out of your territory, but they love you, too. I heard that. Thank you very much. Great people. Hello, darling. How are you? We have a lot of great Congress people here, huh? Fantastic. The primary is Tuesday, August 16th, but absentee voting, I hate to use that term. We should have one-day voting with paper ballots. So absentee voting begins very shortly, and you'll go and you'll vote. But we should have, you know, France the other night had an election, and far more people than individual states. And the results were in by 11 o'clock at the evening. There wasn't a dispute. They didn't wonder, where did the extra 75,000 ballots come from? Why did you close the machines in the middle of the evening at 3:02? Why were the machines closed only to open? And gee whiz, I went from a nice lead to I was tied or losing. No, you know what? I'll tell you, I don't want to emulate France or any other country, but numerous countries do. Paper ballots, one-day voting. What about this voting where you vote 3 weeks earlier? They're storing the ballots in these storage rooms. Boxes moving back and forth. Where are the guards? Oh, well, they've decided to take some time off. Why are the boxes moving? No, we're crazy. We used to have, look, if we've learned one thing from Trump, it's that our elections are seriously flawed. I'm being very nice when I say that. And one other thing you've learned is that our borders are a disaster. We created the strongest border in the history of our country, and now we have the weakest border in the history of our country. And you got to have those two things to have a country. You don't have fair and free elections, and if you don't have strong borders, you don't have a country. So we're pleased to be joined tonight by the man I was just talking to, who I heard was great. I mean, if he wasn't, don't clap. But if he was, give him a big hand. He is a serious conservative, and he comes from a slightly different state. Now, see, Biden wouldn't know that. He would have no idea where he comes from. He wouldn't know where Pelosi comes from, where Schumer comes from. Representatives Andy Biggs, thank you, Andy. Lauren Boebert. Lauren, oh, there you are. Lauren, MAGA. I heard you guys were great. Kat Kamak, she's great, Florida. Good job you're doing. And a real good friend of mine, he was my doctor in the White House. He was the doctor for Bush. Oh, he got us into the Middle East, Bush. He got us in. He got us into the quicksand of the Middle East. Bush, he was Obama's doctor, and he was Trump's doctor. And they said, who's the healthiest of the three? Who is the healthiest? He said, it's Trump by far. It's Trump. Stronger. Who's the healthiest? But, you know, he's got a very big distinction because Ronnie Jackson was a great admiral, a great doctor, and then he ran for Congress in Texas. And I think the other night he only won by 48 points, okay? 48 points. They love him. They love him. And he was a great doctor. He knows more about my body than any human being on earth. Sadly, that includes our great First Lady, I think. Doc Ronnie, you're the greatest. Thank you very much. It's great to have you here. State Treasurer Kurt Byer. Kurt, thank you. Wherever you are, Kurt. Thank you, Kurt. And a man that I've become very close to over the last little while, somebody that's really been incredible. He's a tough cookie, too. And he doesn't like Liz Cheney. He doesn't like what she's done to the Republican Party. He doesn't like what she's done to our nation. Wyoming GOP Chairman Frank Eathorn. Frank? Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. He's different. He always has to sit in a different section. I always say, could you guys please stay in a sort of a same, there's a lot of people in here. But you stand out, you know why? Because you're really outstanding. You've done an outstanding job. You've done an outstanding job. But this is politics, right? So, Frank, so if you don't win, you did a lousy job, okay? But I think you're going to win big, and I think you're working harder than just about anybody, and we appreciate it, Frank. GOP chair. Thank you, Frank. Great job. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes. Sean. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean. Utah GOP Chair Carson Jorgensen. Thank you, Carson. Good-looking people, huh? Thank you. And where's my good friend, State Senator Bo Beitman? Where is he? Thanks, Bo. Looking good. You're looking good. They're looking better. Great. Thanks, Bo. Great to be with you. And a man who's the single greatest purchaser of advertising in the history of our country, Mike Lindell. They love Mike. I love Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much. I want him to buy all of our campaign ads. If we do that next campaign, does anybody want me to run again? Well, we did better the second time by far than we did the first, but bad things happened, really bad things. I also want to announce a friend of ours, Lynn Freese, who's here with the family, and our beloved Foster. Foster was a good man. He was a hard worker. He loved this state. And Lynn and the family are here, so Lynn, thank you very much. And she's been on our side right from the beginning. I mean, Lynn, you were actually on our side even before Foster, but we're not going to say that because we don't want to make him upset, right? Thank you very much, Lynn and the family. You could take the 5 worst presidents in American history and put them together, and they would not have done the damage that Joe Biden has done to our country in just 16 short months. The contrast between the Trump administration's success and Joe Biden's breathtaking failure could not be more stark. Compare how great America was just 2 years ago. Think of it. Compare it with today. 2 years ago, look where we were. We were doing things that nobody thought possible. And then 3 years ago, it was even beyond. And then we got hit with the crap that came out of China. The China virus, we got hit, and then we rebuilt it, and we got them going again, and the stock market was higher when I left than even prior to the so-called term that they use, COVID. COVID. I wonder how the hell they got that term, COVID. It's the China virus to me. But think where we were just 2 years ago. There was no inflation. The war with Russia going into Ukraine would never, ever have happened. And we wouldn't be giving away $85 billion worth of equipment, and we wouldn't have had 13 dead soldiers, and we wouldn't have had many soldiers so horrifically injured that, and nobody talks about them, with no legs and no arms and blown to pieces, and nobody talks about them. Only modern-day incredible military medicine could have kept them alive, but they have to suffer for the rest of their lives. And we wouldn't have left American citizens behind. Would have been none of that. We had $1.87 per gallon gasoline. Think of that. Now it's going to close to $9 today. That's like 3 massive tax increases. Energy independence. And soon we were going to be energy dominant. We were going to be bigger in a short period of time than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined, much bigger. And a lot of that energy was going to come from a place known as Wyoming. You know that, right? But they don't do that. I see there's a lot of trucks sitting idle right now. How crazy, how stupid. But we'll go to Venezuela to buy it. That's where we're going. We're going to buy it from Venezuela. You know, Russia, I don't know if you know, but you look at their currency, it's at an all-time high because oil is so high right now, highest it's ever been, that as bad as they're doing and as much as they're spending, the ruble is at an all-time high because they're taking in so much money. You want to stop the war? Drive down the price of oil. Drive down the price of energy. You want to stop it? Stop with the windmills that kill all your birds and destroy your environment. And it's the most expensive energy on earth. You want to stop the war? Drop that price down to $30 and $40 a barrel. That war will stop. You know, a person said this. They say it was Napoleon, but some people disagree. But if it wasn't him, I hope not, because I'd like to take credit for it. To fight a war and win a war, you need 3 things. You know what they are? Money, money, and money. And Russia is making a fortune with what oil is selling for. And they'll only accept now rubles. They'll only accept it in their currency. You'll end up with no dollars. You'll end up with nothing. And look at what's happening to our country. We had the biggest tax cuts ever. We had the biggest regulation cuts ever. We had historic job numbers, much, much more than you have today. Today's incredible. They show it's a 3.5%, under 4%. But it is totally fake news because they're not counting all these people that have decided maybe they'd never want to work again. People that have businesses, they can't hire anybody. And yet we had 164 million people working, and they have much, much less than that today. So we were doing things that nobody has ever seen, including rebuilding the military, including Space Force. How about Space Force? Including Right to Try, where if you're terminally ill, you get to use medicines that may or may not work instead of going to China, going to Europe, or going home if you have no money to die. And Right to Try, they've been trying to get it for 56 years. I got it done. I got it done. Right to Try. And thousands of lives have been saved. These are people terminally ill. The government used to say, we can't give it to a terminally ill person because we may hurt them. No, they're going to die. But it wasn't as simple as all that. But we took away the liability. We got everybody to sign. And I'll tell you, we saved thousands and thousands of lives. It's incredible. On this Memorial Day weekend, we are honored to be joined by Royce McCollum, the Gold Star sister of a fallen warrior, Marine Lance Corporal, Riley McCollum. who at 20 years old was among the 13 fallen service members horribly and unnecessarily killed at the Kabul airport last summer. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Thank you. Thank you. She lives here. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very nice. Thank you very much. It's hard to say. So sad that that whole event took place. You take out your soldiers last. We didn't have one soldier killed. We didn't have one American killed in 18 months. I spoke to the head of the Taliban. The Taliban is tough. And they're smart. You know, when I say people are smart, oh, he said they're smart. They asked me, is President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, is he smart? I said, yeah, he's smart. Very brilliant, actually. He called President Xi brilliant. What the hell am I going to say? He's running with an iron fist. 1.4 billion people. No, he's not smart. If you said Putin, now Putin's come down a long way. But if you said Putin was smart, you'd get excoriated. But if somebody else would have said it, it would have been okay. But you know, when I look at what we've been through and all of the things that we've been through, I said, I want to call up the Taliban. I want to speak to the Taliban. Jesse James, they said, why do you rob banks? He said, that's where the money is. Then they said, why is he speaking to the Taliban? Because that's where the problem was, right? In Afghanistan. So I got him, and I spoke to him a couple of times. Why is he speaking to the Taliban? You know why I'm speaking? Because I don't want soldiers killed. That's why I'm speaking to the Taliban. So I said, Abdul, it's wonderful to speak to you, Abdul. I'm sure you're a lovely person. These are fighters. These are people, they've been fighting for 1,000 years. They live in crevices. They're very good fighters. All you have to do is ask the Soviet Union, which became Russia, smaller. He's trying to build it up. It's not working so well because we're going to have a lot of land, but there's not going to be a lot on it. But there's a lot of death, a lot of death. But when you look, I said to him, Abdul, don't kill any soldiers. You kill any soldiers, you're going to be hit harder than anybody has ever been hit before. But Your Excellency, why do you say that? Your Excellency. He called me Your Excellency. I wonder if he calls Biden Your Excellency. I don't think Biden ever spoke to him, actually. I don't think Biden speaks to people like that. I don't think he doesn't want to speak to him. Your Excellency, but why do you say that? And I said, just don't kill any soldiers. You kill any of our soldiers, you're going to be hit harder than anybody's ever been hit, actually. And he then understood that. And then he said, Your Excellency, please tell me, Your Excellency, why? Oh, why did you send me a picture of my house? And I said, Abdul, you're going to have to figure that one out. But you know what? We didn't lose one soldier in 18 months until this catastrophic surrender took place. They were so afraid they didn't want to mess with us at all. Just like Russia would never go in, China would never go into Taiwan. He didn't want to kill any soldiers, and we would have gotten out. I got it down to 2,000 soldiers, but we were going to keep Bagram because that's a base built many years ago for billions and billions of dollars. And we were going to keep it not because of Afghanistan. We were going to keep it because where China makes its nuclear weapons is 1 hour away. Isn't that a beautiful thing to keep? And he gave it up. And you know who's occupying it right now? China is occupying it right now. And you know who's negotiating for us as our representative with Iran when I ended the Iran nuclear deal? You know who's negotiating? Russia and China are our representatives. How do you think that one's going to work out? So the other day, a reporter, fake news reporter, asked me, what is Trumpism? What is Trumpism? How do you define it? And I thought it was actually an interesting question, and I sat down and thought about it. And I thought about America first. I thought about Make America Great Again. But I said, it's really very simple. It means low taxes, low regulations, the most powerful military in the world. It means taking care of our vets. It means tariffs and taxes on other countries who take advantage of the United States on trade, which is almost every one of them. And by the way, which will make America rich again. I had to go through so many problems with these senators. There's a guy named Toomey in Pennsylvania. He was a disaster. Sir, why do you charge tariffs to China? Well, they're charging us 100%, Pat. Do you think I should charge them 50%? No, sir, it's not free trade. What about 25%, Pat? No, sir, it's not free trade, but they're charging us 100% for a similar product. Sir, it's not free trade. I said, so what should we charge China? Nothing. Oh, I see, Pat. Oh, you're great. This is what I had to deal with. This is what I had to deal with. So I said, I'll never endorse this guy. And I didn't. And he couldn't run in Pennsylvania. Dr. Oz got the nod today, by the way. He said he'll never run in Pennsylvania. But, you know, look, I have a certain courage because I'm a smart guy. And when I don't do that, we have an impeachment vote coming up. He raised his hand to impeach me on nothing. I'll raise my hand. So I could have said, oh, Pat, that's a wonderful idea. Let's charge China nothing. You're wonderful. He wouldn't have done that. But he couldn't run because I wouldn't give him the endorsement. He wanted to run so badly. Pretty young guy. But these are the people that you have to fight. And these are, in some cases, they're the rhinos that you have to fight. At least you know where the Democrats are coming from. The Liz Cheneys of the world and Pat Toomeys and others, but they're far worse because you don't know as much where the hell they're coming from. So if countries want to take advantage of the United States, they must pay for the privilege of doing so. That will make us a rich nation again because every country takes advantage of the United States. And we made some great deals, USMCA. I mean, we did some incredible deals with Mexico, with Canada, with South Korea, with China. China was a great deal, but when COVID came, I didn't even talk about it because COVID just blew everything out of the lid. I didn't want to even talk about it. But it's protection of our undersea Second Amendment, great health care, low energy prices through energy independence and even energy dominance, parental power on schools, life, strong borders, and much more. That's what it stands for. That's what it stands for. You know, they write books on what does Trumpism stand for or what does America First stand for. And I'll never forget Biden in his first week. We will not allow America First. You can't say that. What you do is you say, we don't like Trump's policy, but don't say you're not going to allow America. It's a great name, isn't it? America First. I love it. But that's what America First stands for, those things and more, but those basic things. As president, I also stood up for the hunters, fishers, sportsmen, outdoorsmen, and no administration has done anything like I've done since a gentleman named Teddy Roosevelt. He liked the outdoors also. You know who likes the outdoors? My sons, Don and Eric. They like the outdoors. They like the outdoors. They know more about guns. We expanded access to 1.4 million acres of public lands for hunting, fishing, and recreation. We gave the American people their land back. It was taken away by government. And we stopped the Obama-era regulatory assaults on hunting, trapping, ammunition, and fishing gear. And now, as quick as they can, it's all being reversed. Biden and the radical left have turned calm into chaos, competence into incompetence, prosperity into poverty, and security into a total catastrophe. The election was rigged, it was stolen, and now our country is being destroyed, and our country is paying the biggest price imaginable. We had a thunderous victory in 2022. This is what we're going to be doing. We're going to put numbers up that nobody's ever seen. We want to win so big. We're going to have, it will be a thunderous victory, the likes of which we have never seen. It will be the most important midterm election in the history of our country. And Harriet Hagman is going to be leading in that election. Harriet Hagman. Harriet's going to be leading the charge with a Republican Congress and maybe, it's a little tougher, maybe a Republican Senate. That would be nice. It'll be a little tougher. I think Herschel's going to do great. I think a lot of guys are going to do good. We have some I'm not so sure about. But I'll tell you, we have a great chance in the House. And even if we got the House, that would stop communism from coming into our country. That will stop radical socialism from coming into our country. But we will defend parents' rights. No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender to our children without parental consent. Can you imagine? Excuse me, these massive screens that we paid a fortune for, I'm just looking at the back of my head. Is it getting a little thin? I'm not happy. I don't like that. I'm looking at these big, big, beautiful screens. We used to pay so much to rent them. I said it's a lot cheaper to buy them. So they're pretty nice. But is everybody over there having a good time? I think so, right? What's more fun than a Trump rally? What's more fun? It's true. When I met your governor, he informed me that this was the, they announced it in the front. I actually told him, do me a favor, when you announce this was the biggest rally in the history of your state. And they said that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest rally in the history of the state of Wyoming. See, Biden couldn't say that because this is the biggest rally in the history of the state of Iowa. That's right, Iowa. No, I can't say that. He used to get that mixed up a lot during the campaign. I can't believe this whole thing. He used to get that mixed up a lot. If it ever happened to me, they'd run me out of town. They'd run me out of town. But with him, he used to, remember Florida? Turned out to be Maine. No palm trees. We will save our kids, and we will also keep men the hell out of women's sports. Is that okay? Keep them out of women's sports. And you saw the swimmer. I've talked about it. Everyone's talking about it. But a female, beautiful, young female woman swimmer. She wants to break the race. She's going to break this record. She's worked all her life to break this record. She needs 1/16th of a sentence. 1/16th of a second. That's all she needs. And she's going to do it. And then she's standing up and she's ready to go. She's all set. And she looks over and there's this huge person who was a guy recently. See, I'm politically correct. I said recently. See? They can't get me. You have to be very careful. This is a hornet's nest we're dealing. This is a hornet's nest. And she says to herself, man, that guy's big. That person is very big. And she was injured during the race. You know what happened, right? He went by her so rapidly that she was given major, major windburn. He went so fast. He went so fast that the wind was so strong that she got windburn. She didn't know what to do. Anyway, he broke the record by not 1/8 of a second. He broke it by 38 seconds, Harriet. 38 seconds. That is a record that will long stand. That is a record that will long stand. That will stand for many years in infamy. No, that will stand until some guy comes along and breaks it again. But she was rather devastated. But you know, it's funny, she didn't want to really say too much because everybody's afraid of not being politically correct. I'm the only one that talks about it. I mean, on the campaign stuff, I'm the only one that talks about it. Even guys that we sort of like, you know, I like a lot of the guys, but, you know, they don't want to talk about it because they think it's not politically correct. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I mean, the better one, that's a swimmer, that's great. But the better one was the weightlifting championship. And you had a young lady, she was strong as hell. And she's going for the record, I don't know what it was, like 208 pounds. That's a lot for a woman to lift over her head. That's a lot. And she was going to break it. And they put two little tiny, like a half an ounce and another half on the end of the barbells, right? You know, they put a little bit. And she took a shot at it. She was so proud. Well, bump. So she'll break it another day. And then this person comes along. Whoa. They said, have you lifted before? No, I've never done it before, actually. Are we crazy? Are we crazy? And you know, that's so discriminatory to women. It makes women look terrible. It makes them look bad. It's so horrible. And nobody wants to do anything about it. And I'm a competitive person, and if I were ever a basketball coach, let's say, a women's team, I'd say to LeBron James, who I don't like at all, I say, LeBron, did you ever have like any thoughts, LeBron, ever? Any thoughts about someday becoming a woman? Because if you did, I'm going to recruit you right now. And I would have the greatest women's team. I would have 5 people on that team. And I would add a few more reserves, not that I would need them. And we would have the greatest women's basketball team in history. Nobody. Red Auerbach would be looking down, the Boston Celtics. He'd say he's the greatest coach in history. No, it's so crazy. We have to get our country straightened out. We are on such a bad and stupid path, and the world is laughing at us. Laughing, right? In addition, we will get critical race theory out of our schools, out of our military, and out of every part of our federal, state, and local governments, right? We all saw the terrible tragedy that happened this week in Texas, and as I said yesterday in Houston, our hearts grieve for the terrible loss, and we send our love to the families. This is what a horrible, horrible thing to see. And I can tell you, just having left Texas, they are devastated. The whole country is devastated. Actually, the whole world is devastated. So now we urgently need to invest in securing our schools. We spend trillions and trillions of dollars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and we got absolutely nothing for it. Before we nation build the rest of the world, we should be building safe schools for our own children in our own nation and in our own towns. Another one of our highest priorities under a Republican Congress will be to crack down on left-wing censorship and to restore free speech in America. We do not have free speech. The press is so corrupt, we no longer have free speech. They don't cover things that they don't want to, and this is all together. It's in a sense, you call it a monopoly, a cabal. But this is, they get together, they say, we don't want to talk about this, we don't want to talk about that. Well, look at Afghanistan that I mentioned before. You rarely see that, the $85 billion. You know, Afghanistan is one of the largest arms dealers now in the world. They're selling all the equipment that we left, and it makes them one of the largest. Somebody said the largest. They're selling tanks, planes, Goggles. They have more goggles than they ever thought. And they're better than ours. They're brand new right out of the box. And they're selling all this stuff. They're one of the largest in the world. You don't hear that from the fake news media. The radical left Democrat Party is not, in my opinion, a 50% party within our country. They're against God, guns, oil, law enforcement, voter ID. They're against our Constitution. They're against everything. And they're certainly against they are against our founding fathers. The way they win, and I believe this fully, is to cheat on elections. You can't win with those. No voter ID, defund our police. They have things that are not winnable. In California, they send out 38 million ballots, and who the hell knows where they go? And they come back, and everybody says, you can't win California, don't even go there. They send out 38 million ballots, and they come back, and where are they coming from, and where are they going? The whole thing, we have lost our bearing. We're going to lose our country very soon. At every level, Republicans must fight for universal voter ID, citizenship confirmation. Wouldn't that be nice? Could we confirm, sir? Sir, could we confirm that you're a citizen of the United States? Absolutely not. You're taking away my rights and my liberties. But are you a citizen? It makes no difference. I'm entitled to vote. Our country's gone crazy. No more fake drop boxes and no private money pouring into local elections like with Zuckerberg. We're just 6 months away from the most important midterm victory in American history, our leader, and we need a landslide so big that the radical left cannot rig it or cannot steal it. This is the year that we're going to take back the House. We're going to take back the Senate, and we're going to take back America. We're going to take it back. Thank you. And in 2024, most importantly, we are going to take back our great and beautiful White House. We're going to take it back. But first, we have to secure a massive victory for Harriet Hagman. And we've got to make sure it's going to be massive. So get your friends, get your family, get out and vote for Harriet. Great woman, and a brave woman. This is not an easy thing to do, a brave woman. Thank you, Harriet. With a Republican Congress, we will fight for more jobs for American families, fair trade for American workers, and more American factories forging more products stamped with that beautiful phrase, made in the USA. We will shut down Biden's border disaster, the worst, most open border, and the most dangerous border in the history of our country. Last month, 141 different countries were represented by illegal aliens that came in. 141 countries. A lot of people didn't even know there were that many. We have to reinstitute our strong, it's called Remain in Mexico. Wasn't easy for me to get. I got it. I said, listen, you're going to do a Remain. No, we won't do that. Yes, you will, because if you don't do it, we're going to put tariffs on all your damn cars that you stole from us. And if you don't do it, sir, we'd love to do it. It would be our great honor to do it. Remain in Mexico. We will reimpose Title 42. Can you believe they want to get rid of Title 42? That's a disaster. Strengthen the patriots of ICE and Border Patrol. These are great people. These are real. See these tough, they're tough, some tough men in this front row. Look at that guy. You don't want to do what they do. You don't want to do it. I see you. He's a tough guy. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to run into a nest of illegal aliens that happen to like knives very much. You know that, right? You take a look at what's going on, MS-13, the gang members, roughest gangs in the world, and these guys will run right in there and they'll do what they have to do, and then they get beat up by some people in our country. We've taken thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of them out of our country, and now they leave them in our country to do tremendous damage. We will again end catch and release. We will end chain migration, a disaster. We will end the visa lottery, and we will quickly finish the remaining portion of the wall. We finished 500 miles. We then added additional, would have taken 3 weeks to finish it. We will stop the Democrat crime wave. We will give our police the power they need and respect that they deserve. They have to get the respect that they deserve. And we will not take legal protection away from our police and law enforcement. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You get yourself into a problem and they say, go out and hire a lawyer, you're on your own, right? That's a short way of saying nobody's going to join the force, which is already tough enough because they don't get the proper backing. They know how to take care of crime. We have to give them back their authority. Their authority has been taken away. We will restore law and order in America, and especially in our Democrat-run cities, which are a total catastrophe. We will hold China accountable for unleashing the virus upon the world, the damage they have done. We will protect innocent life. We will defend our Constitution. We will defend the Second Amendment, and we will proudly uphold the Judeo-Christian values and principles of our nation's founding. We will restore patriotic education to our schools. We want our children to be proud of our country like they happen to be in Wyoming. And we will teach our children to love their country, honor their history, and to always respect our great American flag. Stand for our flag. Stand. And in conclusion, our MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, is by far the greatest political movement in the history of our country, not even close. Together we are standing up against some of the most menacing forces, entrenched interests, and vicious opponents our people have ever seen or met. Despite the great outside dangers, our biggest threat remains the sick, sinister, demented, and evil people that we have to deal with from within. I believe they hate our country. But no matter how big or powerful these corrupt radicals may be, you must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you, belongs to you. This is your home, this is your heritage, and our American liberty is your God-given right. From Cheyenne to Sundance, from Gillette to Jackson, from Sheridan to right here in Casper. Casper, we love Casper. This state was built by some of the toughest men and some of the strongest women ever to walk the face of the earth. Wyoming was forged by pioneers and farmers and mountaineers and frontiersmen, ranchers and lawmen, and by a roll call of America's legends like Buffalo Bill Cody. Did you know that? Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill. We love Buffalo Bill. These Wyoming heroes scaled the Rockies, braved the cold, tamed the wilderness, and they carved out a life and a home with their own two hands. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. Our country is in trouble. Our country is in trouble. We will stand up to the radical left lunatics and the rhinos, and we will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. There is no mountain we cannot climb. There is no summit we cannot reach. There is no challenge we cannot meet. There is no victory we cannot have. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never, ever back down. As long as we are confident and united, the tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a small chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and to God alone. My fellow citizens, this incredible journey we are on together has only just begun, and it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again. We don't talk about greatness anymore. You watch the newscasts at night. They talk about all of these different things, but they never talk about making our country great again. They never do. They tear down our country. They don't build up our country. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation. Under God, we are the American nation. We are the greatest nation on earth. But right now, there are challenges to that status. We're not going to let that happen. We are going to be greater than ever before. So with the help of everyone here today and citizens all across our land, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. Proud, proud, proud. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Wyoming. Thank you very much. Thank you.